So, hello, my name is Rebekah Cancino. As he said, I am a communications strategist at 40, which is an experience design firm in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm so excited to be here to talk with you guys today about something I think is very important for us to consider as we're getting our content structured and ready to go anywhere. So these houses here are in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. The white one in the bottom corner is actually where I live. And they're in a historic district that was built in the 1930s and 40s. It's called the Willow. And what I love about my neighborhood is that it's so vibrant and full of character, right? But not every neighborhood in Phoenix is like this. In fact, a lot of them look a little more like that, these just monochromatic seas of sameness. And I find that a bit sad and depressing. And so I started wondering, how did we go from communities of character to these massive cookie cutter places? And I traced it back to the roots of American suburbia, and that was the post-war baby boom, right? So it all comes down to babies. The sailors were coming home after World War II, getting married, having lots and lots of kids, and this was putting a big stress on our communities and our housing, especially where housing was already pretty scarce, right? So, and something to note too is that the processes for building communities at that time were suddenly just unsustainable. They couldn't keep up. So along came a man named Bill Levitt. Bill Levitt would later be known as the father of modern suburbia. And during the war, he had created this process of building mass military housing using interchangeable parts and modular structures, right? And he became convinced that this utilitarian system of building was the answer to the housing shortage, right? And it was nimble, it was fast, it allowed him to create a lot of houses on land surrounding the cities fairly quickly. And I want to point out that Mr. Levitt, he wasn't a bad fellow, right? He had the best intentions at heart. He wanted to create affordable, comfortable, modern housing for these war veterans and their family. And he wanted to make something that he could be proud of, right? And we all share those same intentions. So I started to see these little things in common that we had with the start of suburbia and what we're facing with our content now. We're facing similar challenges, just in a different context, and we're also looking at changing our workflows to adapt to those challenges, right? So when looking at the similarities between these two seemingly disparate situations, you start to see that there's really an opportunity, right? There's an opportunity to not make the same mistake. And the mistake that I'm talking about is that of allowing a system to completely strip away the personality of the very thing that system was designed to serve, right? And it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't, but it could be if we aren't careful. And that's why I believe we have to do better, right? Because people don't fall in love with businesses and organizations. People fall in love with personalities. And structured content has the ability to give us these fluid experiences that are adaptable, but also full of life and character, right? So this doesn't happen all on its own. We have to be very intentional about not getting too granular and clinical in our approach that we inadvertently create our own web suburban sprawl, right? So as we're shifting our focus and working from the smallest canvas outward, I think it's really important for us to look for ways to make sure that our content retains its liveliness and our messages retain their meaning. So one of the ways that you can do this is just plan for it, right? And a lot of you are doing this already, and it's amazing. You're doing a great job, and I love that. But just plan for the time and processes within your workflows that will ensure that your content keeps its distinct nature and what makes it wonderful. Another thing that's going to take is us working together really closely, right? So content strategists, developers, designers, information architects, and especially your content creators, the actual authors. As Sally Bagshaw mentioned at Confab earlier this year, if your content authors aren't on board and feeling supported, then you really will have a problem. Finally, just as focusing too much on voice and tone and message failed us, focusing too much on just the structure and organization will fail us too. There has to be a balance between the two, or we'll end up with a bunch of adaptive content that really doesn't motivate or inspire us at all. So that brings me to this quote by Ethan Resnick, and there's been a lot of talk about it in the community. Metadata is the new art direction. We love that, right? Because we know that if we want these automatic processes to be infused with human decision making, we need these rule-based instructions. But I'd also invite you to explore what art direction really means, right? It's a pretty weighty word. It means it it elevates meaning, it evokes emotion, and it really allows you to create content that's memorable and also lovable. So I'm really excited about where we're headed with adaptive content. I think we've only scratched the surface, and it's never too early to start safeguarding against web suburbia. So if this is something that interests you too, I would love to chat about it and hear your thoughts on the matter. Thank you.